The bridge was quiet before dawn, lit only by the soft glow of instrument panels. Crew members stood at their stations, checking readings and whispering routine greetings to each other. Then, without warning, the central holoscreen flickered to life with a burst of static. Every head turned as a single line came through loud and clear. "Congratulations, you've just declared war on the galaxy's deadliest species." A hush fell over the bridge. The captain, a tall woman with steel-gray hair, stared at the screen in disbelief. Her hand hovered above the console as if she might press a button without meaning to. "What is this?" Someone whispered, but no one had an answer. The message repeated itself once more, and then the screen went dark, leaving only the hum of the ship's engines and the uneasy silence of a crew with more questions than answers. Lieutenant Aaron, the communications officer, tapped at her console and called out the status of all channels. "No outgoing transmissions found, sir. Nothing left the ship without our knowledge." The captain nodded slowly and swung her gaze around the room. "Try to trace it," she ordered. "Find out where it came from and who sent it." Aaron's fingers flew over the controls as she ran signal diagnostics. The crew watched the scanning lines race across every monitor. When the tracing finished, she frowned. The signal bounced through 5 relay stations off-grid. Then it disappeared into a secure node we don't have access to. It is not in any known registry. There was a low murmur among the officers' surprise and alarm mixed in their voices. "Secure node," repeated the executive officer. "Commander Davin, that sounds like a Black Ops net. If it is that, we might be dealing with rogue elements." Even as they spoke, an alarm chirped from the weapons console. Gunnery Chief Lopez reported in a firm voice. "Unknown ship detected on long-range sensors, bearing 092, distance 14,000 kilometers." The captain turned back to the holoscreen, now showing a faint outline of a vessel far off in the darkness. "Identify it, Lieutenant," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. For a moment, each crew member held their breath, hoping the answer would not bring more trouble. The scans came back, and the news was worse than anyone dared imagine. "I can't match its signature to any friendly class," Aaron said, her eyes wide. "It has irregular hull plating and no transponder code. It must be stealth tech or a very old design. No one in official fleets uses that pattern. It could be a pirate ship or worse, an alien vessel." The word alien struck like a thunderbolt. The bridge went deathly quiet again. If this was an alien species, and if that broadcast was a declaration of war against them, the crew might be walking into a trap. The captain took a deep breath and stood, her shoulders squared. "Prepare an away team," she said. "I want visual confirmation. We do not make assumptions until we see with our own eyes, Davin. Get the pilot ready, and arm the drones, just in case." As the crew moved to follow orders, a new concern settled in their minds. An unplanned conflict with a powerful species could destroy them in seconds. Yet curiosity and duty drew them forward. They had no choice but to uncover the truth. If someone had declared war on these aliens unwantedly, they needed to know why. A small boarding drone slipped through the airlock with a soft hiss. The screen showed the hallway of the unknown ship. The lights were dim, and no sound came through the microphone. The captain and her team hovered in the observation bay as the drone inched forward. Aaron narrated calmly. "Interior systems are offline. Gravity at 70% Earth standard. No signs of life support running. Could be abandoned." But then the drone's camera feed shook violently as something moved in the darkness. A long dark shape slid across the floor, and the drone's lights illuminated part of a spiny limb that ended in a cluster of claws. The feed cut out with a crackle. The crew gasped. Lopez slammed his fist on the console. "We've triggered something." "Alive in there, sir," Davin called out. "Bring it back before it tears itself free. We may be in over our heads, Captain." The captain clenched her jaw. She could see the terror in their eyes, but she knew hesitation now might cost them everything. She tapped a button. "Retrieve the drone," she said, "and bring every shred of data it collected. We will review the footage and plan our next move. No more surprises, understood?" The drone slipped back out of the dark corridors to the safety of their ship. The crew let out a collective breath as the hatch sealed behind it. The holoscreen showed the damaged lens and static lines, but in between them, a glimpse of something alive and dangerous. As the captain watched the replay, she thought of the broadcast words again. Who declared war on these creatures? And why? Target the galaxy's deadliest species without warning? She tapped her fingers on the armrest and stared at the flickering image. The answers they needed lay hidden in that broken feed, and perhaps in that secure node. The fate of her ship, and possibly many others, would depend on what they discovered next. The bridge lights dimmed as the crew prepared for long hours of analysis. Outside, space stretched silent and infinite. Somewhere out there, the deadliest species in the galaxy waited. And in the shadow of their ship, a war had already begun. The council chamber rattled with the sound of alarms, red lights flashing along the walls like warning beacons in a storm. Delegates from across the human worlds rose from their seats. Voices raised and urgent questions filling the vaulted hall. Admiral Reyes stood at the center podium, her uniform crisp but her face tight with concern. "Explain how we declared war on an entire species without our orders," she demanded, her voice cutting through the noise. Commander Tarek, the fleet commander, cleared his throat and raised his hands for calm. "Admiral, the broadcast you received was not sent through our channels, nor was it approved by any council." "Vote." He paused as murmurs of relief and fresh anxiety rolled through the room. "We have no record of the declaration, and we suspect outside interference." A delegate from Orion Prime slammed his fist on the table. "Outside interference? Are we to believe pirates or terrorists have gained the power to start a war?" His face, usually calm and pale, had flushed red with anger. "This is an insult to our authority. If we cannot control our own weapons, we might as well hand command to the lowest bidder." At his words, a young aide stepped forward, voice wavering as she held a small data slate. "Sir, I intercepted a brief signal from a ship approaching high command space," she said, eyes wide under the council's bright lights. "It matched no known design. It slipped past our detection nets, and Bennett sent out a single line across all frequencies. Congratulations. You've just declared war. I have the source coordinates here, but I cannot verify the sender's identity." Silence fell again, heavy and sharp. Admiral Reyes studied the aide's face, then the slate. Finally, she set her jaw. "Bring up the coordinates on the main display," she ordered. The holoscreen at the front of the chamber hummed to life, showing a cluster of stars 30,000 kilometers beyond their patrol zone. A blinking icon marked an unregistered vessel. "That ship could be our only lead," Reyes said, voice measured but urgent. "We must move carefully." A counselor from New Terra leaned forward, eyes narrowed at the display. "What if this is a ploy by an enemy faction within our own ranks?" he asked, tapping his fingers on the arm of his chair. "If someone on this council, or in high command, ordered this broadcast, we could be facing a betrayal from within." Commander Turek exchanged a look with Admiral Reyes. "We cannot rule that out, Counselor," he said, "but we have no proof yet. We must investigate the signal, trace its path through the relays, and then decide how to respond. If this is a false flag, revealing it now could help the traitor. We need more data." A murmured debate rose around the chamber, voices speaking of loyalty, security, and the risk of panic. The breach in protocol, the fear of war, and the shadow of a possible traitor combined into a tense swirl of accusations and doubt. Delegate Morin of Jessimari called for order. "We are here to protect human lives and defend our worlds. Let us remember that haste could doom us all. If we start a war we cannot win, every colony will pay the price." Her words brought a moment of calm. The council members returned to their seats, thoughts heavy. Admiral Reyes raised her hand. "We will form 2 teams at once," she declared. Team Alpha will work with intelligence to trace the relay nodes and dig into the secure networks. Team Beta will prepare a small reconnaissance squad to approach the unregistered ship. We cannot afford to wait until it slips beyond our reach. The council session transformed into coordinated action. Officers gathered around displays, tapping keys and exchanging information. Spies in dark rooms traced encrypted links. Engineers checked drone readiness and communications gear. Among them, Commander Turek whispered to Admiral Reyes, "If this truly is a betrayal, I want a list of everyone with clearance to use Black Ops nets. We must narrow the suspect list." Reyes nodded. "I will have that for you within the hour. And Tarek, stay alert. We cannot underestimate the risk. Those who sent this message know our systems. They know our weaknesses. They may be watching us now." As the preparations moved forward, a hush fell over the council chamber's outer corridors. Outside the heavy doors, guards patrolled with rifles. Ready, the fate of the fleet and of countless innocents depended on whether they could uncover the truth in time. Every officer felt the weight of the task. In a secure corner room, Team Alpha's command console glowed with streams of data. Lieutenant Aaron joined Intelligence Officer Mara Patel over a holomap, showing node connections. "These relays lead through some of the most secret channels in our network," Aaron said, tracing a red line that wound like a snake across star systems. "I see a jump to an unlisted node here at Sector 512B. That alone should be impossible." Patel frowned. "That node is under the control of the Directorate, highest level clearance only. If someone is using it, they have to be a top official or a rogue agent with stolen codes." Over the comm, Captain Riaz's voice crackled. "Alpha. Team, report. Any progress?" Patel tapped a command. "We have identified a pattern of access during the last 36 hours. The codes match those of Admiral Jansen's personal credentials. He has been inactive for a month, in quarantine for unknown reasons." Aaron's eyes widened. "You mean someone is using Dead Man's codes?" Patel nodded grimly. "Yes, and if Jansen is not responsible, someone is impersonating him. We need to confirm his status." Meanwhile, Team Beta readied a small shuttle for launch. Gunnery Chief Lopez and 2 drone operators strapped into seats. The unregistered vessel's coordinates lay ahead. A silence fell as the hatch sealed and the shuttle lifted off, leaving the council chamber behind in the flickering red light. Back in the chamber, Admiral Reyes addressed the remaining members. "We wait for our team's reports, then we decide. Should the evidence point to a rogue officer, we will act swiftly. If it leads to an enemy plot, we prepare defenses, but we will not panic. This council stands as one, united." The delegates nodded, though uncertainty still clouded their faces. The alarms continued to echo softly, a reminder that the threat loomed beyond their walls. No one spoke further until the doors sealed with a final hiss, sealing them in with the weight of secrets and the knowledge that any betrayal could destroy them all. Beyond the council's secure doors, the galaxy waited in dark silence. A single declaration of war had shaken the heart of human command. Now, in the shadow of the council's walls, every secret would have to be revealed if they were to stop a war before it began. Lieutenant Aaron stood at the sensor station, her breath catching as the long-range scanners finished their sweep. On the holoscreen, a shape emerged from the dark, drifting into view like a silent predator. 8 limbs curved around its body, each ending in sharp blade-like tips. Its armor glowed with a dull sheen that shifted colors in the starlight. The crew around her leaned forward, eyes wide with fear and fascination. The captain joined them, arms crossed, voice low. "Describe what you see, Lieutenant," she said. Aaron spoke carefully. "The creature is about 14 meters long from head to stinger. The body is sleek and elongated, with exoskeleton plating that looks alive. It pulses with veins of light, almost organic circuitry. There are no markings or flags. This species hides its true form until it strikes. A murmur ran through the bridge. Commander Davin rubbed his chin. No transponder codes, no registry entry, no known species matches that profile. Could this be a lost colony experiment gone wrong? He wondered. Gunnery Chief Lopez shook his head. If it were ours, we would have records. This design looks centuries old, perhaps from a civilization long gone, or from an enemy we thought extinct, the captain nodded. Open a secure link to science. Get every biological and tactical analysis we can. Now, across the ship, in the science lab, Dr. Harini tapped at her console. She panned the alien image and zoomed in on the limb joints, writing observations in her log. She spoke into her recorder. The exoskeleton appears to be made of a semi-crystalline protein. Its limbs have micro-articulations that suggest both speed and strength. It may be able to tear through alloy plating. If our shields or hull cannot withstand its blows, we will lose this ship in seconds. Back on the bridge, Aaron relayed the findings. The captain frowned. Send that to engineering. We need to know how to adjust shield frequencies. If that creature can bypass our defenses, we have no chance. While orders flew back and forth, rumors surfaced among the crew. Some whispered that the alien was the legendary Nilerax, the deadliest hunters in the galaxy. Others insisted it was a new breed bred by rogue scientists. None could agree. In the mess hall, Petty Officer Sloan leaned over his ration bar. I heard they once ate through a moon just to prove a point, he said to a friend, voice dropping to a whisper. They killed 5 cruiser fleets in a day and left behind nothing but wreckage. His friend shivered. Why would they come here? We have nothing they want. Maybe someone wants them to start a war, Sloan said, glancing over his shoulder. Back on the bridge, a fresh alarm sounded. A squad of interceptor drones lifted off from the hangar bay and zoomed toward the alien vessel. The captain stood, hand on the rail. Record everything. We need to see its reaction. The drones closed in, their lights probing the alien ship's surface. One drone hovered near a limb, firing a low-power plasma pulse. The beam hit the creature's armor, and the armor rippled like water, absorbing the energy and dispersing it into a sudden shockwave. The drone spun away, crashing into space debris. Its feed showed the alien's glowing eyes, 2 deep blue orbs that locked onto the drone's retreating form. Then the creature moved, limbs whipping forward in a blur. It seized another drone, crushing it in a single motion. The drone's metal frame twisted as if it were made of paper. The bridge erupted in alarm. Pull them back, the captain ordered. The remaining drones retreated at top speed, their sensors screaming. The holodisplay flickered with static. When the feed cleared, the bridge was silent. The captain swallowed hard. Show me the drone logs, she said. We need every frame of that impact. Analyze how it struck. Aaron pulled up the data, zooming in frame by frame. The creature's limb struck with a force that bent alloy beams and shredded plating. Sparks exploded against its claws but faded. Instantly, as if the armor repelled damage at the molecular level, Commander Davin looked at the screen. This isn't just an animal, it's a living fortress. Our weapons are almost useless. The captain met his gaze. Then we find its weak spot. If it has one, prepare a thermal scan. Look for any part that does not glow. Aaron nodded and activated the sensors. The holoscreen shifted to show heat signatures. Almost the entire creature glowed, an even gradient of warmth. But at the base of its tail, near the neural cluster, a dark, cool spot appeared. There, Davin pointed. The junction between the Taiji and Zinku tail segments. If we disrupt its nervous system there, we might incapacitate it. The captain leaned forward. Plot a firing solution. Use focused laser pulses to target that spot. Calibrate for minimal spread. We need precision, not power. In engineering, Lopez adjusted the beam arrays. The consoles lit up with data. Lasers ready on low output mode, targeting system locked. On the bridge, the captain took a steady breath. "Fire," she said. The holoscreen showed a green beam shoot from their ship. It streaked toward the alien vessel, tiny against its bulk. The beam struck the cool spot, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then the creature's body convulsed. Its limbs jerked in rapid spasms. A burst of light flashed across the screen as the creature howled through the cum feed, an unearthly shriek that rattled the crew's bones. The armor at the impact point cracked and splintered, steam hissing. From the wound, the creature reeled backward, limbs flailing. It seemed stunned, almost vulnerable. But then its eyes glowed brighter, and a shockwave radiated outward, tearing through space to buffet the bridge with raw energy. Consoles sparked and alarms screamed. The captain gripped the rail. "Initiate. Evasive maneuvers. Shields up to maximum. Prepare to strike again when it stabilizes." As the ship shuddered under the aliens' counterattack, the crew realized they had found a chance. The creature was not invincible after all. If they could focus on that one small spot, they might survive this encounter. The battle had turned into a deadly game of cat and mouse, and the next move would decide their fate. The forward base on Vega Minor lay under a red sunrise, paint peeling from the walls and maintenance bots humming in the distance. "Lieutenant." Erin stepped onto the landing platform as the base's lights blinked to life around her. Cracked banners of the old fleet fluttered in a weak breeze, and ragged ships rested in orbit above. Each bore scars from past battles, rust creeping along. Their hulls, she found Captain Reyes standing before a makeshift podium. Her uniform was dusty, her eyes bright with urgent determination. "We know the enemy is coming," Reyes said, voice calm but strong. "They outgun us and outnumber us. But they do not have our courage, our hope, our heart. Today, we rally not just ships, but every soul who stands with us." A murmur went through the gathered crew, mechanics, pilots, and volunteers of all ranks. Erin watched as a young engineer lifted her chin, staring at the captain as if finding new purpose. "We rebuild what we can," Reyes continued. "We do not have new cruisers or full squadrons. But we have spirit, and sometimes that is enough to turn the tide." In the hangar bay, Chief Lopez oversaw the final checks. Old fighters stood with missing panels taped over, and freighters converted into gunboats rumbled on their landing legs. Mechanics worked in pairs, tightening bolts and feeding power cells into Lieutenanton. Weapon turrets. Sparks flew in the dim light. Lieutenant Marcus, a pilot with only 3 missions under his belt, approached Erin. "I've never fought an alien before," he confessed, voice low. "What if we fail?" Erin placed a hand on his shoulder. "We fight together," she said. "That is how we win. You fly with your wing, and we all watch your 6. Nearby, a group of colonists pressed around a hollow map table. They pointed at star systems and whispered plans to send supplies and reinforcements. Each world had sent someone, even if it was only a small rebel ship. From the smallest moon to the greatest city, they answered the call dot at the edge of the bay. A memorial plaque listed the names of ships lost to the alien hunters in past skirmishes. The words glowed faintly. It was a silent reminder of what they faced and what they were willing to risk. Private Daniels traced one name with his finger and closed his eyes. "For them," he whispered, stepping back into formation. The base alarm sounded, and a stretch of open ground cleared for the send-off ceremony. The sun rose higher, casting long shadows over the assembled fleet. Captain Reyes raised her voice. "We depart in 10 minutes. Each ship will follow its assigned path. We strike together at Orion's belt. No ship stands alone. Pilots climbed into cockpits, gunners strapped into turret seats. Engineers mirrored final checks on comm panels. A hush settled as the largest gunboat powered up, its engines roaring. Then the medium frigate stirred, and finally the battered fighters flared with energy. Over the intercom, Reyes spoke once more. "Remember, you are not just sailors. You are the living proof that humans will not bow to fear. Show them our resolve, and let every burst of fire be a warning. We stand as one." One by one, the ships lifted into the pale sky through open hangar doors. Dust swirled around them. Aaron watched from the platform as the last fighter soared off. The hangar fell silent, empty but for the echo of departing engines. Inside the command tower, Aaron and Reyes stood side by side at the annunciator console. On the holoscreen, lines traced each ship's flight path toward the asteroid cluster of Orion's belt, where the alien scouts had been spotted. "If they hold their fire until we are within range, they could wipe us out," Aaron said. Eyes fixed on the map, Reyes nodded. "That is why we lead with the small fighters, to draw their attention. Then our frigates will fire from the flanks, and our gunboats will hit them with everything they have. We coordinate, we adjust, we survive." A final ping sounded on the console. The first vessel reported crossing the edge of controlled space. "All ships are on course," Marcus's voice crackled over the channel. Each pilot confirmed. Nothing would slow them now. Aaron exhaled and glanced at Reyes. "May fortune favor the bold, Captain." Reyes gave a small smile. "Fortune favors preparation and courage," she replied, turning her gaze toward the open sky. "Now let's make history." And with that, the command tower's hatch closed. The forward base at Vega Minor stood silent once more, its role complete. Beyond its walls, the ragtag fleet raced into the coming storm, each crew member carrying a spark of hope into the heart of battle. In that fragile light lay the seed of victory, planted by those who refused to surrender. The sky over Orion's belt burned with light as the ragtag fleet entered the asteroid field. Dusty fragments of rock glowed against the black. Each ship slipped between the massive stones, guns at the ready. Lieutenant Marcus gripped the controls of his fighter, breath steady despite the roar of engines. The pilot beside him whispered, "Over the come. Brace yourself. This is where we test our mettle." On the command bridge, Captain Reyes stood before the holomap, red dots marking enemy picks of the belt. "Keep formation tight," she ordered, voice calm over the noise of alarms. "Our fighters will draw their fire. Frigates, stay hidden until we have their attention. Then strike from the flanks. Gunboats, be ready to unleash full power." Marcus and his wing took the lead. His fighter dove toward the first alien scouts, plasma cannons blazing. The shots lit the darkness. Green bolts tearing into a sleek enemy ship. Sparks erupted as the alien hull shuddered, but it did not falter. The vessel spun and returned fire with an electric pulse that cut through Marcus's shield. Warning lights flashed. He twisted the controls, dodging debris as he returned fire. The battle had begun. Above them, frigates fired from cover. Thin beams of light snaked through the rocks, striking alien vessels hiding behind asteroids. Each hit caused cracks in the alien armor. Cheers rose on the bridge when the first enemy medium cruiser exploded in a flash, flame and metal rocketing into space dot. But the enemy responded quickly. A squadron of 8-limbed hunters darted out, their claws glowing with energy. They moved like living shadows, disorienting the human ships. One hunter leaped onto a gunboat's side, crushing plating like paper. Crew inside yelled as sparks rained down. Another pilot, Petty Officer Sloan, rolled his fighter beneath an asteroid and fired 2 missile volleys. The missiles curved around the rock and struck the hunter's flank. It screeched, a sound that crawled into every spine. Then it vanished. Into the gloom in engineering, Chief Lopez monitored shield strength. Energy at 60%. They focus all fire on our flanks. He ducked under a console as a shockwave rattled the deck. Engineers shouted as panels sparked. The captain's voice crackled. "Hold the line. Focus on one target at a time. We cannot let them pick us off. Lieutenant Aaron directed the tactical drone network. Tiny drones zipped ahead, scanning the hunters. For weak points, target the joints where the armor doesn't shift, she called out. Relay coordinates to all fighters. Marcus received the data, pinpointed a joint illuminated by his targeting reticle, and fired. The shot struck true. The hunter's leg shattered, and it crashed into an asteroid. Glittering debris scattered, but for every hunter downed, 2 more seemed to take its place. The alien species fought with ruthless strategy. They coordinated attacks, isolating human fighters and swarming them. One ship, the gunboat Dauntless, fired its main cannon, a roar that shook the bridge. A beam of pure light cut through the field, obliterating a cluster of hunters in a single sweep. The blast lit up the belt like a miniature sun, but it left the Dauntless temporarily vulnerable. 2 hunters clawed into its hull before reinforcements arrived. Marcus saw the Dauntless in peril on his HUD. He cut loose a plasma missile and watched it arc in a perfect curve, striking a hunter mid-leap. The beast exploded in a wash of violet light. A calm settled over the belt for a heartbeat. Then an enormous cruiser, living obsidian plating gleaming, emerged through the asteroids. Its size dwarfed human ships. It moved with deliberate speed. On the bridge, the crew gasped. That must be a command vessel, Commander Davin said. If it leads them, we must stop it. The captain's jaw set. All ships, focus fire on that cruiser. It must not command any longer. Weapons free. Missiles and lasers from every gunboat and frigate converged on the massive ship. The beams carved glowing lines across its hull, but the cruiser barely slowed. It unleashed a cascading pulse that tore through shields, and human ships rocked under the force. Marcus dove his fighter beneath an asteroid, emerging behind the cruiser. He aimed at the base of its plating, the cool spot their scientists had found. He squeezed the trigger. A precise laser bolt punched through the armor. The cruiser trembled, then a jagged crack spread like lightning across its surface. The belt erupted in a storm of fire as the cruiser wobbled. Hunters broke off to protect their leader, and human ships took advantage, pressing the attack. The cruiser's engines flared, and it fired a final pulse before shuddering and splitting apart. Silence returned, broken only by the dying hum of damaged engines. The human fleet hovered among the asteroids, weapons down, shields flickering. Many ships bore scars, and a handful drifted, unmanned. On the bridge, Captain Reyes took a breath. All units, report status. We hold the belt. Casualties will be counted later. For now, we celebrate this victory, but stay sharp. Pilots cheered. In the cum channels, mechanics prayed over cum feeds, and even the battered Dauntless crew raised a cheer. But the captain knew the fight was far from over. This skirmish was only the first clash in a war they did not choose. Down in engineering, Lopez patted his console. We did it, sir. We held them off. Shields will need repairs, but we are alive. On the belt's edge, Marcus set his fighter on course for the base. He glanced at the stars, still bright behind the dust. We showed them our spirit today, he said softly. Above all, the captain stared at the wreckage of the alien cruiser. One victory did not win a war, but it gave them hope. And in a war against the galaxy's deadliest species, hope was the greatest weapon of all. Late at night, the corridors of the command ship felt colder than space. Lieutenant Aaron walked with Commander Davin toward the cargo bay. Their footsteps echoed on metal plates, and the only light came from dim emergency lamps. Davin glanced at Aaron, caution in his eyes. Keep your guard up, he whispered. We do not know who we can trust. They reached the heavy bay doors. Davin tapped his security code, and the doors slid open with a hiss, revealing a narrow room lit by a single overhead lamp. In the center stood a hooded figure waiting in silence. Hand outstretched, the figure held a small data chip glowing faintly. Blue, Aaron and Davin exchanged a look before stepping forward. "Who are you?" Davin asked, voice low. The figure's voice came out in a soft rasp. "Someone who wants the truth," they said. Then they placed the chip in Davin's hand and turned away, disappearing into the shadows beyond the bay. The doors closed behind the lone silhouette, leaving Aaron and Davin alone with the data chip. And 1,000 questions, Davin studied the chip. "This must contain proof of the traitor," he said, voice tense. "But we cannot open it here. Someone might be watching." "We need a secure lab," Aaron nodded. They slipped out of the cargo bay and hurried down a side corridor toward the intelligence lab. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the ship itself weighed on their shoulders. The thought that someone they served alongside could be a traitor haunted them both. In the lab, screens glowed with star charts and relay logs. Aaron input her override codes and slid the chip into the reader slot. The screen blinked, and lines of data scrolled like rain. Finally, a message appeared. "Project Silent Dawn. Admiral Janssen. Coordinates, rendezvous. Authorization code, 0923X. Below it, a list of high command officers and secret dates flashed across the monitor. Davin frowned. "Janssen's name is here, but so is Admiral Reyes's and Commander Tarek's," he said, voice tight. "But their codes appear only after the broadcast. Janssen's code was last used a month ago. Reyes and Tarek seem added now." Aaron leaned closer. "This looks like a frame-up. Someone copied Janssen's old code and added our leader's codes to a forged log. The real traitor must have access to every level of command." Davin rubbed his mouth. "If we accuse the wrong person, we destroy the fleet's unity. But if we wait, the traitor could strike again. We need proof. And we must keep this secret." Aaron's eyes lit with resolve. "I have an idea. We cross-check these logs with the relay node timestamps. The forger must have left a trace. If we can match the fake entries with a real connection from somewhere on this ship, we will find our traitor." Davin nodded. "Start narrowing the logs. Find any anomalies in the code timestamps. I will alert the security team to watch for any unusual access attempts, but tell them nothing about Janssen. We must keep this tight." While Aaron dove into data, Davin left the lab to arrange security. The corridors seemed emptier now, as if the ship itself held its breath. Every crew member they passed felt like a suspect. Davin wondered, had he ever truly known his own officers? Back in the lab, Aaron traced the timestamps. Most matched the standard security logs, but she found one odd entry, a 10-second gap in the secure node's audit trail. It happened at exactly 2:06 hours, mere minutes after the broadcast, and it originated from a console in Admiral Reyes's private quarters. Aaron's heart pounded. She double-checked. The console ID matched the Admiral's personal terminal, but the access was too brief to be normal. Someone logged in, created the fake entries, and logged out in 10 seconds. "Davin, I found it," she said, voice barely a whisper. "The access point is Reyes's terminal." Davin's face paled. "She swears loyalty to the fleet. She would not betray us. Perhaps someone stole her codes?" Aaron shook her head. The chip showed only 2 uses of her code, both at times she was on the bridge. This access falls in the gap. Reyes was in a console, not on her terminal. Someone must have used her login remotely. They both understood the danger. The traitor had not only planned the false broadcast but also covered their tracks with forged credentials. And whoever it was, they were still among the crew. Someone with knowledge of every procedure. Davin spoke with quiet urgency. "We confront Reyes directly. We do not accuse. We ask for explanation. If she is innocent, she will help us find the real traitor. If she resists, we know where our enemy lies." Aaron hesitated. What if she denies knowing? Then what? Davin's eyes hardened. Then we have to pit suspicion against action. But first, we must be sure the evidence holds. We need one more check. He looked to Aaron. Let me accompany you to her quarters. We keep records of every step, and no one else comes in. Aaron took a deep breath. All right, but we need to move now. They exited the lab and made their way through silent halls. Each door they passed felt like a threshold between trust and betrayal. At Reyes's door, Davin activated the security override. The door slid open, revealing the Admiral's cabin lights dimmed for rest. Admiral Reyes looked up from her chair. Her face was tired, but she straightened when she saw Davin and Aaron. You summoned me? She asked quietly. Davin held up the data chip. We need to talk about Project Silent Dawn. We found evidence of access to the secure node from your terminal. At 2:06, do you know anything about this? Reyes's eyes flashed. She rose and crossed to the console. She tapped commands, her fingers moving quickly. My terminal logs show no access at that time, she said, voice firm. But if someone copied my code, they could have masked the entry. I will authorize a full forensic trace. I want to find whoever did this as much as you do. Relief and doubt mingled on Davin's face. We need your help, Admiral. We suspect the traitor used forged credentials. We will compare logs and find the real source. Reyes nodded, expression resolute. Then we stand together. I authorize every clearance for you and Aaron. Use my terminal. Show me everything you have. As the three huddled around the console, the cabin lights flickered from distant alarms. The war they fought in space had brought a threat closer than any alien ship. Now in the shadow of betrayal, trust would become their most powerful weapon. Deep beneath the command ship's deck, the secret laboratory glowed with soft green light from rows of consoles and power conduits. Engineers, their faces gleaming with sweat and excitement, moved among heavy cabinets that held parts of a new weapon. Dr. Harini stood at the center table, her eyes bright as she held a metal cylinder the size of a fist. She lifted her voice above the hum. This is our experimental edge, she said, her tone calm and proud. The device will generate a micro-singularity. It can tear an enemy ship. Apart from the inside, Captain Reyes watched from a distance. Arms crossed, she studied the cylinder. It looked simple but felt heavy with promise. Can it work in real space? She asked. Dr. Harini nodded. We tested it in simulations. Now we must test it in the field. If it holds, it can end the war in minutes. Chief Lopez gazed at the power core glowing in its housing. The energy flux is unstable, he warned. One wrong pulse and the lab goes with it. The engineers paused and glanced at the core. It pulsed in time with their heartbeat. A thin line of sweat ran down Lopez's cheek. We must be ready to shut it down if it goes wrong. Commander Davin tapped his foot. It is a risk, he said. But the risk of waiting may be greater. We face a species that eats through our shields like paper. We need an edge. He looked at the staff. Are you ready? Harini inhaled and nodded. She tapped the console. The door sealed tight. Red lights flashed as power built in the cylinder. Engineers scrambled to check gauges. A low hum rose in pitch. Sparks flickered along cables rated far below this power. The lab warmed. Everyone felt the heat. In the middle of the lab, a test drone waited. It was small and round, with sensors at its front. Wires led from the cylinder to the drone's core. Aaron at the sensor station spoke over the comm. All systems green, energy levels at 80%. Drone ready for launch. Reyes gave a single nod. Fire when ready. Harini's hand trembled as she pressed the activation key. The cylinder glowed white, and a beam of light shot into the drone. For an instant, the lab fell silent. Then the drone's lights flared, and it shot from the open door into a safe test chamber behind thick glass. Inside the chamber, an asteroid chunk floated. It was no bigger than a car. The drone hovered before it, then turned its sensor. A small pulse of energy fired from its core. The rock chunk flickered. A thin line of space-time bent around it. Then, with a twist of light, the rock vanished. In its place hung a smear of gas. The lab erupted in cheers. Engineers slapped each other's backs. Lopez let out a laugh of relief. Davin cracked a grin. Reyes allowed herself a small smile. The weapon worked, but the relief was brief. A warning buzzer sounded. A readout flashed. Core instability, 97%. The power core's gauge rattled. Cables buzzed with pain. Harini shouted, "We must shut it down now." She lunged for the manual kill switch. The cylinder's glow pulsed faster. The air rippled with forced gravity. Lopez and 2 engineers jumped back. Sparks flew from the power conduit. The floor shook. For a tense moment, everything hung at a thin line between success and disaster. Then Harini flipped the switch. The beam cut. The cylinder's glow faded to black. The core's hiss slowed. Lights returned to normal. The lab fell into silence, broken only by the heavy breaths of its occupants. Reyes stepped forward. "Good work," she said. "That pulse was close. Could we have done more damage if we let it run a second longer?" Harini shook her head. "No, the system was nearing critical. A second too long and the containment field fails. The singularity expands uncontrollably." Davin turned to Reyes. "So we have one chance in the field. We must make it count. When we face the enemy's main fleet, we fire this at point blank. If it works, their command ship will die, and the rest may retreat." He paused. "Are we ready to trust this in a real fight?" Silence fell. Each person weighed fear and hope. Finally, Reyes lifted her chin. "We do what we must. Prepare for deployment. We leave at first light. May this edge be our salvation." The crew nodded, eyes bright with resolve. In those silent moments, they made a pact to trust science and courage above all. Deep in the lab, the cylinder sat silent. It held the promise of victory, but it also held the power to destroy them all. The fate of the fleet would hinge on one pulse of light in the coming storm. And in that choice lay the weight of every life in the galaxy. The combined fleet gathered under the blood-red glow of the nebula Epsilon. Ships stretched across the void like a patchwork of hope and steel. Captain Reyes stood on the bridge of the flagship Horizon, watching the formation with serious eyes. Around her, crews readied weapons and ran final checks. The stillness was heavy, as if the galaxy held its breath. Lieutenant Aaron checked the targeting console. "All ships report green," she said, voice calm. The holoscreen showed dozens of icons in perfect lines. "Drones are ready. Experimental devices loaded. Shields at full strength." Commander Davin stood beside the captain. "We have one chance," he said. "If they break our line, we lose. But if we hold, we may end this war." Reyes nodded. "Fire on my mark. We begin with the device, then follow with full salvo. Keep formation tight. Protect the device ship." Below them, the smaller craft raced through space lanes. The gunboats rumbled with power as their engines flared. Fighters danced around the larger ships, their wings catching the nebula's red light. Each pilot thought of home and what this battle meant. On the Horizon's deck, the weapon shuttle sat at the launch bay. Chief Lopez and 2 engineers ran final diagnostics. The device glowed softly in its cradle. Lopez tapped a screen. "Device is stable. We have a clear path to the enemy flagship." Nearby, Marcus and Sloan climbed into a launch pod. "Remember your oath," Marcus said to Sloan. "We hold them here. No ship falls." Sloan gave a firm nod. "For our worlds." Back on the flagship, Reyes took a deep breath. She raised her hand. "Mark." In the launch bay, the shuttle doors opened. It shot forward, leaving a trail of blue plasma. Fighters and drones moved to guard its path. The enemy ships lay beyond the nebula's edge, their shapes dark against the red mist. The shuttle held course. Inside, the engineers watched screens. "Approaching target range," one called out. Device locked on the flagship's hull. "We are within 5 kilometers. Outside, the combined fleet opened fire. Lasers and missiles cut through the red haze. streaks of green and yellow light flashing through the void. Explosions bloomed as human weapons struck true. The enemy responded with brutal counterfire, waves of energy rocking human ships. On the horizon, alarms screamed. Minor hull breach aft. Shields down 20%, Aaron reported. The bridge shook with each enemy. Salvo, Reyes held her ground. Maintain shield focus on stern. Divert all power from life support if needed. We must keep the weapon shuttle alive. Commander Davin barked orders. All fighters cover the shuttle. Gunboats form a perimeter. Frigates take out their support. Ships. In the blood-red mist, the shuttle pierced the enemy front line. It slipped past a giant cruiser and into the command ship's gap. Its windows glowed with the device's light. Inside the enemy flagship, alarms lit every console. Alien officers barked orders in a harsh language. The ship's shields shuddered. Their commander, a tall figure in obsidian armor, watched the lights on his screen. Back on horizon, Aaron saw the device birth with its marker. They hit the docking lock, she said. We have one pulse. Reyes raised her voice. All ships, stand by for second mark. We fire together. In the shuttle, Lopez pulled the release panel. Godspeed. A silent pulse of energy shot outward. The device activated. In a flash of white light, the enemy flagship's hull buckled. A scream of metal rang through space. The command ship's engines failed, and it listed into the nebula. Human ships moved in. Lasers struck the crippled flagship. Fighters swarmed over its surface, dropping bombs and tearing at any sign of movement. The obsidian armor cracked and splintered. On the horizon's bridge, cheers broke out. Aaron smiled, tears in her eyes. They did it. The flagship is down. Reyes allowed herself a small smile. All ships, pull back to safe distance. We are not safe until the last hunter falls. But the alien fleet did not retreat. In the red mist, more living ships emerged, sharper and faster than before. They poured attack after attack, thirsting for revenge. Human shields strained. One by one, ships fell under the relentless onslaught. The horizon shook violently. Consoles exploded. Power flickered. Reyes stood firm. Do not break. Focus fire. On the wings, use every last shot. Marcus dipped and rolled his fighter through the hail of enemy fire. For our homes. He shouted into his cum. As he fired, an explosion rocked his cockpit. Warning lights flashed. His shields were gone. He gritted his teeth. Elsewhere, Sloane's wingman called out. I'm hit, I'm hit. Sloane looped around and fired 2 missile volleys. The missiles carved bright paths. The wounded wingman fell clear of the battle zone. In the command ship, Reyes saw Marcus's icon flicker. Davin, dispatch a rescue drone. To Marcus's position, divert 1 fighter squad. Davin hurried to send the order. Rescue drone en route. Hold the line for 2 minutes. The battle raged on. Each side suffered heavy losses. Smoke and debris drifted through the nebula's haze. The red glow made every explosion look like a supernova. On the horizon's bridge, Reyes watched her friends fight. We cannot let them overrun us. One final push. All remaining power to weapons, fire. A storm of beam fire and missiles tore through the wave of alien ships. The living obsidian armor shattered, and the astral hunters fell into the red gas. Silence followed. The combined fleet floated in the crimson mist, battered but victorious. Smoke drifted from many hulls. The blood-red nebula shone calmly, as if nothing had happened. Captain Reyes exhaled. She turned to her crew. We did it. The hunt ends here. Aaron met her eyes. The galaxy is free. Reyes nodded. Today, humanity showed its spirit. Today, we forged a new dawn. Outside, the nebula's red light shifted. Far away, new stars rose in the darkness, promising hope for what lay ahead.